It's good to see you again, Marianne.
You too.
Hey, folks. Well, here I am. I'm at the Kinney farm, and it's pretty noisy in here. We're inside the sugar house, and this here is Marianne Kinney. Isn't that right, Marianne?
Yes.
Yes, Marianne Kinney. And Marianne makes maple syrup from the maple sap that comes from the maple trees, the sugar maple trees. And she's going to tell us exactly how they take that sap and turn it into maple syrup. Now, I heard that, we got that kind of loud because the machine's going, but I heard that you usually, on a smaller operation, the sap from the bucket, you would boil it down a few times, like 3 times, to make it into syrup?
Well, it depends on the equipment. If you have equipment that can do it in one shot, that's better. The longer it's on the heat, the darker it gets, and most producers want a lighter, clear syrup. The faster you get it on and off the heat, the better.
I know you have light, medium, and dark.
Yeah.
The way you get those different colors is based upon...
It's a combination. It's a combination. It's the heat. The longer it's on the heat, the more the color will change. But it's also the quality of the sap. So early in the season, the sap actually has a higher sugar content than it does later in the season.
I just left the Aldermere farm, and I was talking to Sarah. And Sarah was showing me how you tap a maple tree.
Yes.
And you know how an apple orchard, a bunch of apple trees is called an orchard? And I know
Right.
I learned that the maple tree is called a bush.
Yes.
Exactly. How many trees do you have?
We are tapping about 8,700 taps. We're almost 9,000 taps.
Wow.
Most of those are single tap trees. We have a very young sugar bush.
So you're not like taking a bucket like she does, and
No.
the sap goes into her bucket. How do you get all that sap into your sugar house?
We have over 70 miles of tubing that run through our sugar bush, and all interconnects, and then every drop comes right into the back room of our sugar house.
Now I have a question about this boiling and getting the water out to get down to that maple sugar, maple syrup. I know you have a sugar house here, and smaller operations, they have a sugar shack. Now my question is, why do you have a separate building? Why don't you boil down the maple sap just in your regular building?
Sap comes in around 2% sugar. Syrup is at 66% sugar. So there's a lot of water that leaves. 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. All that water evaporates. If you do it inside your house and you have a wallpaper in your kitchen or even painted walls, you won't have any wallpaper or paint left by the time you're done making maple syrup.
Okay, well, that's a good reason to have a separate building.
Oh yes.
So you have all these pipes, and so you tap your tree, but you have them go through the piping, and the piping goes downhill into this sugar house.
Yes.
And then what happens when it gets to the sugar house?
We have 2 releasers that pump the sap as it comes in. It pumps upstairs. We have 6 1,500-gallon tanks that collect the sap for us. 4 of them we use to collect the sap, and 2 of them alternate. Sometimes they're collecting sap if we have a really good run, especially overnight. If it doesn't freeze overnight, we can still collect sap so that we can sleep through the night. We'll open up 5 tanks, and sometimes even 6 if it's a really good run of sap, so that we can come back and then boil it the next day.
So from this tank, it goes down into this sugar house.
Yes. After the collection, we bring it back down into our reverse osmosis, which will actually take out 3/4 of the water for us before it goes to the heat of the evaporator.
Oh, I see. So, okay, it goes to the evaporator, which is a big machine,
Yes.
which looks kind of like a locomotive.
It does. We've nicknamed it Percy from Thomas the Tank Engine.
So you turn it on, and I guess you would switch on some type of a valve so the sap goes through a pipe into the locomotive.
Yes. Yeah, we have all kinds of different pipes throughout our sugar house to connect those 6 tanks and our evaporator so that we can switch which tank comes directly to the evaporator. The concentrate from the reverse osmosis goes back upstairs into one tank and then comes back down into the evaporator where the sap gets boiled, and that's when the color change happens, because sap is clear like water.
So yeah, I know, I saw some sap, it was amazing. So it comes into the pipe and it goes into the locomotive, the evaporator machine,
Yes.
and then what happens?
Our evaporator has 3 parts. We have a steam away where it preheats our sap, brings it to about 200 degrees, from there it goes down into the flue pan of our evaporator, where most of the evaporation occurs. From there, the sap flows by convection. The heavier the liquid gets, it moves forward through the machine. And it goes into the syrup pan, and from there we filter it.
How do you filter it exactly?
Well, we have a filter press, which needs a filter aid. The filter aid is diatomaceous earth.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and that is actually what does the filtering. We put the powder into the syrup, and the filter press takes all of that powder, and that's what actually filters the syrup.
I see.
And all that powder comes back out in the press, and then on the other side of the press we have beautiful, clear, amber, liquid gold.
And then basically, then it dumps into barrels.
Yep, as we boil it down, it all goes into 40-gallon stainless steel drums, which we then, because they're packed hot, it's coming off the evaporator at around 220 degrees, and we leave it until we need to either bottle it into syrup or make our candy or our cream or sugar or...
Well, let me stop you right there. Let's talk about the candy. You make candy.
We do.
Okay, how do you make the candy?
We make the soft candy, or we call it molded maple sugar, and it's a process. We take finished syrup and we boil it down further. We're taking it to about 242 degrees, at which point we then take it off the heat and put it into a candy machine. So we can have the hot syrup in one part of the machine and then let a little bit at a time come out and get stirred. Because once you stir it, it becomes the candy, and we pour it into molds. We make well over 2 tons of candy a year in our sugar house. We're not doing a small amount. We don't stir it in the pot and then just pour it into a mold. We have to stir just a little bit at a time, but we boil a big pot. We'll do about 1.5 gallons at a time.
So that sounds amazing. So, do you have any of that candy, that finished product after you made the candy?
We sure do.
Okay, well, can we try some?
Absolutely.
All right, where is it? Where do we go?
We're going to head right over this way.
That way?
Yes.
That way. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Marianne, where's the candy?
Right here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Pure maple sugar candy. That was great.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the Children's Corner.
Cheers.